So we're working on our 1978 Datsun 280Z today, and the task is simple. To get all of this onto that. So we've gathered out the rotisserie, it's back on the lift, and now we need to start bolting up the suspension components that were previously powder coated and rebuilt at a prior date. So all of that is good. Everything you see here was stripped down to bare metal. All the hardware was replaced, all of the struts were replaced in a previous video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. And that's what we got to put on the car today so we can set it back down on the ground and put its own wheels back on it. So it's pretty exciting. Let's get busy. All right, well, the first part has been reinstalled on the car, and that's the first part that's been put back on this car in quite a while. So that's a good feeling. Those engine cross member bolts were torqued down to 36 foot-pounds. Fortunately, we got it on the car, right? That's the fortunate part. Unfortunately, we still have a pile of parts that need to go on it too. So I'm gonna quit talking and get to working. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring the suspension build to a close. Everything's installed, passenger side and driver's side, front and back. Everything's done, and that was a lot of fun. It took me about 3 days to get everything together because naturally things don't go according to plan when you plan things out. I had originally bought hardware kits and fastener kits, and lo and behold, the vendor that I got them from probably just matched thread pitch and size of diameter of thread, so the bolts themselves need a little bit of work in some places, so I had to shorten some on the transverse link and everything in the rear just to get everything on the drop down, what they call dog bones, just to get everything made up the way it should. So that was kind of unfortunate. It took a little bit more time than it needed to or was supposed to, which is the whole reason you buy hardware kits, to make your life easier so you don't have to go down chasing bolts and or refinishing your own bolts, sending them off to a plater and getting them replated. You buy these things specifically to make your life easier, and when they actually add a level of frustration that you hadn't yet experienced, it's infuriating. Sidebar, this is a little rant, okay? If you're gonna be a company, now this is not to bash any Z supplier particularly, because we appreciate you giving us the ability to rebuild our cars with the products that you build and supply. However, there is a stark contrast between you calling yourself a business and going and ordering bolts off the shelf from some other supplier that we as owners could do as well, putting it in a sandwich bag, calling it front bolts and or rear bolts, and having about 50 to 75 bolts in there that all look pretty standard, stuff that we could get. Okay, so just for instance, I did get a fastener kit from like ZCAR Depot, and I'm gonna give this one praise, okay? If you're gonna do fasteners or buy stainless steel bolts or screws, ZCAR Depot, 1,000 thumbs up. They're freaking awesome, okay? It comes in its own sealed plastic bag, and then each individual component within that section of the car. So the big bag is a part of the car. Like this is rear trim kit. So this is the screws for all of the rear trim in the car. When you open this big bag, each individual little piece of trim has its own bag with its own label for the screws that are specific to that piece. Phenomenal job. So huge thumbs up. The other company sends you a bag like this. Now there's nothing particularly wrong with it, but when you get a level of service from one vendor that is far above and beyond what most people expect in a restoration or rebuild project, and they give you customer service that is outstanding, and then you get something like this that just says, oh, you bought a suspension bolt kit? Well, here's the bolts for the front. Here you go. Good luck. There's like 30 or 40 of them in there. Figure it out. When I tear apart a suspension, I do the same thing that ZCAR Depot does, is I individually label bolts, washers, nuts, any kind of fastener for that particular piece that I took off, a bag and tag. It's simple. It's an easy process for me. The cars that I work on get torn down and they stay torn down for longer than I would like. When I go to put them back together again, it's nice to be able to just pick up a little sandwich bag, find the bolt for the piece that I'm working on, and reinstall it. So when you get that level of service from a company that is of the same standard that I hold myself to, it's bliss. It's amazing. And then when you spend the money to not have to spend the time to track down your own bolts, and then they just basically give you a bag of bolts that you could have ordered from Mcmaster Carr or MSC that would have been the same standard size. Another thing is these are not the JIS standard. These are just regular metric class 10.9 bolts. So all of these heads are much larger in diameter than they would have been from Japan. So if you're going for a period correct restoration, I highly recommend you do your own fastener searching, get JIS standard, all that stuff. If you think you're going to save time by ordering some of these fastener kits, just pay attention to the vendor. I'm not going to name who those other ones came from because I'm not here to bash any particular company or any Z provider in general. Again, I am very much appreciative of people who open up a business to supply restoration parts for any old car, much less Z cars. So thank you for anybody out there who is in that type of industry or business, helping us do what we love to do, giving you the opportunity to watch what I do. And it's all good, but just if you're out there doing it in your own garage, be aware that not all vendors are created equal. So that's enough of the rants. Back to this beauty. All the suspension's done. That was a ton of fun, besides the little bolt mishap or the fastener package mishap. Other than that, we're getting ready to go on to the next phase of the build, which I'm kind of at a crossroads. I have about 30 days worth of warm weather left, which is potentially enough for me to paint the entire car. And that's kind of what I want to do. So I think the next steps are going to be starting to remove the emblems, getting everything sanded, and then starting some body work. So, but that's it for the suspension build. If you like this stuff, you know what to do. Click that thumbs up button. If you have any questions about what happened or why I did something the way I did it, leave a comment below. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications. That way you get notified just as soon as I get around to posting another video. I appreciate it as always, and until next time, thanks for watching this one.